welcome to another episode of Get Out of Rap. Today, I'm really pleased to say I'm joined by Stephen Miller, who is the Resource and Capacity Manager at Benenden Health. He is a WFM expert and multiple award winner. And we talked about doing this podcast whilst I was sat next to Stephen the night he got his award. This time I can say I haven't had any red wine. So this should be a great conversation. Steve, welcome.
Thanks. What an introduction, Martin. Thank you for that multi-award winner. I like it. You can come again. I also haven't had red wine with copious amounts of red wine, especially after winning that award, because I wasn't up for an award. I guess we'll talk about some awards later because it's awards season. I just got up on, like, they dragged me on stage and gave me an award. So I was like, so it was completely unexpected. I would have reined in the red wine a little bit before then.
No, come on. I think it loosened it. That's the kind of surprise you like, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I'd kind of the resource planner awards, which obviously if you're a resource planner is one that you want to win. And I'd messaged my wife and I was like, do you know what? This time next year at this award ceremony, I want to be winning that award. And then 20 minutes later, I messaged her and went, I've just won an award, which is just amazing. So she's like, wow. It's like you manifested it really quickly.
Yeah. Well, it's just about kind of hard work, thinking positive, and at some point you're going to get recognized, and that is brilliant. And we'll talk about the kind of support functions and how it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like they're finally getting not just necessarily in awards, but they're finally getting the recognition about how important they are to the overall functioning of the contact center. Whereas, I can think back to when I was in ops, support functions, WFM and the like, didn't necessarily get much kudos, recognition, that kind of. And thankfully, through places like the forum, where you got your award, that's more and more become apparent that this is a real skill set. This is a skill set that we absolutely need to function. And let's recognize them. Do you get that sense?
Absolutely. And I think gone are the days where like your planners and your specifically kind of resource planners, your analysts were sort of sat there in a room, maybe it's often in the corner of the contact center with an Excel spreadsheet, head down, never looking up and out. And it's like they did great work then. And awards and community stuff and some of the great stuff that you're doing, like team leader community, it's a real opportunity to be able to shout about the work that you're doing, to showcase the work, because planners are brilliant. I heard a saying said of contact center wise where not all superheroes wear capes, but they do wear headsets. And I
Yeah.
just thought that was amazing for the guys on the phone. They are superheroes, but for me, I kind of take it like everybody in planning is the superhero of
Mm,
ops. Like they
mm,
bring it over the line, and they're like they look to the future. They're delivering on the day, and then reporting what happened. Um, and the awards, I mean, you had Jackie Pringle on a couple of weeks ago, and UK National Contact Centre Awards, the Forum Awards, and the Northeast Regional Awards near to where I'm based. It's just a great opportunity to showcase all of the great work across the industry, not just in planning, but just in everything. And I think every year, I think Jackie said this, they're just adding more and more categories to those awards as well. So kind of almost one of my tips is put yourself out there. You just
mm.
don't know. You may sit there in
Yeah.
isolation and think, am I doing good work or not? I bet you are. Put it down on paper and send it in and let the judges decide whether it's award winning or not, because you might just win and
Yeah.
even getting to the point of being shortlisted is just an incredible thing. And
Mm.
so many people don't put themselves for it, and I really think you should.
I couldn't agree more because I think this is the epitome of there's no bad outcome here because if you put yourself out there and go through it, naturally the first thing you're going to get is a sense of benchmarking and feedback. So let's say you don't get shortlisted, fine, why not? What what sets the others apart from you? And you can then get them listed and go, right, these are the areas me or my team are going to work on. You get shortlisted, great. You go forward and you win something, great. So there's no bad outcome. These are definitely things, like you say, get out there, take, because no one is, unless you get nominated by someone else and you don't know about it, there's nothing wrong with, like you say, taking a step forward and going, let's go for this. Let's absolutely go for this.
Absolutely, and you know that the bit that I really like, it's like it's not even the validation across the industry from like other call center people, other planners. Actually, it's an opportunity to showcase what you've done within your own organization. It's like a big
Mm.
shout out to your stakeholders in the business that I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, I've been shortlisted. It's a national thing. It's like, so listen to us, and kind of planners need to have a seat at as many tables within the organization as possible to try and influence a lot of the decision making. I mean, that's nothing groundbreaking. But if you go in like an award nominee or an award winner, it's like almost like the kudos within your own organization, not just externally, is really important as well. Like
Now I've got
your
images
own
of you.
growth.
Now I've got images of you turning up to internal meetings with both awards, just putting them on the table before you start.
Yeah, done, done. I did hear a story about a friend of mine, great planner Scott Doherty, and when he went for an interview, he put his awards behind him, a bit like I am now, and he had an award here, an award there, an award there, and it was like, well, when I won my award, it was like
That's
just
nice.
yeah, it's great.
That's nice. That's clever. Now you didn't start in the industry being given an award on day one. Where did day one start? What's your, how have you got to this point now?
Do you know, since you asked me to kindly come on this, I kind of I've been reflecting on that and like the crossroads of like your life. And I absolutely did not know what I wanted to do, and I bet you didn't, Martin. It's like you just kind of stumble upon this career. So I kind of started off university. I lived in a small town, and I went to the University of Salford, and I did business studies, and it was like a broad thing. I want to live in the bright lights of the city. And when I graduated, I was like, well, what am I going to do now? Like, I still want to live like the studenty life. I didn't want any responsibilities. So I did house shares, and I remember it clearly. Summer of 2000, I just went to a recruitment agency. It was Reed Recruitment Agency on King Street in Manchester, and I remember the name. She was called Vanessa, and she was like, "Right, yeah, I can get you a job. Fill out this form, do this little punctuality test," and I was like, "Right, right, right, done." And she said, "Interview this afternoon to start tomorrow." And I was like, okay. So I went along, and it was what I now know is like an outsourced contact center, called Broad Systems, York Street in Manchester. It's not there now. It was a great organization, great starting point. But literally, we got the job, and it was like brand new contract, 30 agents all sat round, and it was a well-known high street retailer who were dipping the toe in the broadband market back in 2000, and we were all trained up to take calls, and there weren't any for like 4 weeks. It's like you're like, as an agent, you'd average like 2 calls a week, and it was like, wow, that quickly changed within the organization. They were like, right, well, we've got this pot of resource here. We'll just put them one there, one there, one there on all the other contracts. And that was my starting point. So literally, I think if you talk to people who in call centers, like everybody started on the phones, didn't they?
Yeah.
You start on the phones and then you gravitate towards what interests you if you remain in the call center world. Many people join and drop off, but some people are kind of lifers.
That start point, I'm just smiling here because that kind of go in, interview, start the next day on the phone. It's like this kind of whirlwind, and before you know it, you're talking to customers. But the other thing that made me laugh is I worked in an outsource. At this point, I was contact center manager, and we got it was like a campaign that had landed. A client had had a misstep with data, and they were looking to do a redress. So they offered to all of their customers this service. We had to quickly spin up like 100 new agents. So we did it within a week, and I can remember they were going, right, we're going to go live, and we're going to get flooded. we are going to get flooded. And it was like a countdown. Five, okay, everybody ready. Two, one, nothing. And there was, like you said, nothing for weeks. And you were
Yeah,
just thinking, oh, we had so much time. We had so much time. But again, maybe it's interesting because that is that first kind of exposure for you without even knowing it of someone somewhere was planning where that resource is going to be best suited.
yeah, absolutely. Someone somewhere had call projections based on what the business thought would happen, right? And I mean, they're nowhere near the broadband market now, so I think they quickly learned no. And there was talk of massive advertising campaign, and I just never saw it. So yeah, we were sat around, and if it was my first introduction almost to planning, because they'd have looked at it and gone, "We're getting battered over here on this line," which was actually the Millennium Dome ticket line for like a supermarket offer. So I'd gone from like 2 calls a week, every sat round having a laugh, like brilliant,
Yeah.
and then bang to like there was like 400 calls in the queue for this special offer. And it's like call after call after call after call, credit card, credit card, credit card. And I was like, oh my god, it was like proper deep end stuff.
And
It
then
was all
then
fun. I look back
oh
and think
yeah.
nostalgic and all that, but it was just a great time.
And what did you do? Did you what was there a point when you thought I can have a career here?
Well, within that organization, I kind of like that crossroads thing. Within that organization, where I sat near like a sales area team, and what they were doing, and I didn't really understand it at the time, but what they were doing is they were showcasing like an early web chat, and clients will come in and go, "This is what we can offer. We've got web chat," and they were putting on demonstrations of how web chat would work. And I got talking to him, and he's like, "Would you be interested in kind of coming and just doing a little bit in my team and helping me talk to clients and do some of the demonstrations?" So almost an early exposure to some sales as well, where I was just there and I was playing the part of either a customer or an agent on web chat, and it was like, wow, oh god, it's like a text message type thing. And then I did more of that, and I moved into that role. So we did kind of more sales based things. So almost it was like the proximity of where I was sat afforded me
Yeah.
that opportunity to almost open the doors and go, well, it's not just about just being on the phones. Actually, there's an industry here, like early sales. Which I'm obviously not in sales now, but kind of that did open there's career opportunities within the
Mm,
call center industry.
mm. And then what happened? Where did you go from there?
I did that. I worked at Broad System for a few years, but I was getting itchy feet, and I'd lived in Manchester for like it was like 6 years at the time. I wanted to see the world. I've always had an interest in traveling, so I started saving up, and I moved to a different call center. I worked on the phones again, a lot of overtime. It was Learn Direct, which was the national careers advice line. And we were, do you remember the gremlins back in the day where a gremlin would follow you up the street? And it was like you were internally worried about whether you can read and write and spell. And you could, oh no, the gremlins, put yourself on a course. It was taking calls about that. And that was my first exposure to how it will be really quiet. And then a TV advert will go out and there's 200 calls in the queue, just like that. And you're
Yeah.
like, TV advert's gone out, right? So, but again, it was like planning. Someone sat there and has seen that and has planned the staff around that. But you never saw them. They were sat in that room that I mentioned earlier. And then I went traveling, Martin, pretty much 18 months. I went around the world,
Nice.
and I scratched that itch, and I came back completely skint. I needed I needed a job basically, and it's like, well, what do you know? Um, and there was an opportunity at the local council near to me where I was living, North Yorkshire County Council, and that was the start of what I would class as the proper call centre career. I spent 13 years there. I joined as an agent, and this was in 2007. And then within a couple of days, circumstances changed, and they needed a new team leader. So it was a brand new call center, brand new set of agents. No one had taken any calls, brand new services. there was a lot of conflict because the existing people who used to do the job, they were moved out, and then they had these people taking calls for the council all of a sudden, new systems. It was just, I look back and I think, what an absolute whirlwind that was back in 2007. But again, it was all new and it was fun times. So that was the start of my proper 13 years worth career working under someone called Sarah Foley, who I introduced you to her last year when we met.
Yeah.
An inspiring leader, done great work. She's still there, and I owe a lot of my career to Sarah. So yeah, shout out to Sarah Foley.
There's a lot there that I love that just the startup, the kind of that kind of everyday you can get opportunities that you didn't expect, challenges that you didn't expect, and navigating your way through all of them in a fast-paced environment. So many people are going to resonate with that, that kind of experience, and you either thrive in it and it becomes a bit addictive, or you think, oh, this isn't for me. It's so hectic. And I think the key there, as you mentioned, is a leader who inspires you, a leader who you can point to. For you, you mentioned Sarah. For me, I've got several people in my past where I think they were my like a lighthouse, and they noticed me, and they worked with me on, look at all this opportunity around you. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? So, at what point did you start going down the planning path?
Yeah, so just on this the Sarah thing as well. We a very talented guy called John Kelly who worked there, and we look at the opportunity. Or you start out. He's now Chief Data Officer for HM Treasury. So he started out there. So it's like we're a little bit of a startup, really, but we had great, talented people, and we worked under Sarah. And I look at what he's gone off and done. Like he spent 14 years at the council as well, and then he's moved on to a massive role, and is doing really good things. I was a team leader, and I need to shout your community out just on that team leader bit, because I was fresh into doing a team leader. I'd been an agent and I'd seen what team leaders had done, but I hadn't actually done the team leader bit myself. And
Mm,
I did the team leader role for 4 years, but it was all self-taught. There was no real
yeah,
community out there. The community that you've built for team leaders now would just have been incredible. Just the ability to be able to tap in to that resource and go, am I doing this right? Am I doing a good job?
yeah.
What would you do in this situation? And you've got a TV channel every Tuesday for the team leader. It's just that would have been incredible. But back in 2007, we didn't have that. So it was kind of, he was doing that team leader role with as I say, a brand new set of advisors doing a brand new set of services. So
Well, I thank you for that. And that's we had similar experiences. That's what stuck with me ever since. And that's why I did it. Was you're kind of on the hot, you're on the fly, you're kind of relying a lot on instinct and what you've seen others do. Leaning now on you'd lean on policy and think, right, what's the best way to navigate this? Well, I'll give this a go. And it would have been great to be able to sense check it. But building a team at North Yorkshire Council then, and like you say, seeing people go on to do great things, you've gone on to do great things. And I guess that's something as well that's often overlooked. You could be sat, you could all go on to have great careers. You could be sat amongst people right now who you'll look back on and go, wow, we worked together, and now look at them, and now look at me. And so you were team leader for how long did you say? 4 years?
4 years, and kind of part of that, the centre didn't really have any planning function. It was an advisor doing schedules on Excel, just by giving like, have a couple of hours and build a schedule for us, because they had Excel skills and we didn't have a WFM. Then we did get a WFM. We bought one. It wasn't in the cloud. It was expensive, and we didn't get the updates that we needed, and blah blah blah. But there was no one doing the traditional planning function, and I kind of got a bit interested in the out of necessity. It was the real time management part. It was the juggling of the balls. Now I've seen the kind of your team leader work where you were at the expo and you had people throwing the balls at you, and it was like, can you catch them, and which ones do you prioritize? I think that helped build my skill set to manage the real time,
Mm.
because again, it was kind of just the ball juggling, what moves where at what time, and what would make the crucial difference to that overall green service level that is on that wallboard above us. Um, and I started to kind of really enjoy that. And then I looked into the principles of your forecasting and doing the reporting. And it just started to grow, and it come too much. I was doing the team leader role and the planning role. And we couldn't do it all. And so eventually I gave up the team leader responsibility and had my own kind of, I was the planning team. And eventually got a new WFM, got new planners into the team. And I was totally self-taught in planning, no one telling me what to do. I think in that period, I think call center helper just became my best friend. Like,
Yeah.
like I'd read something about occupancy and be like, well, what's that? I'm like, well, what is adherence and what is benchmarking? And you kind of just researching all of these kind of just general planning terms that you have that I didn't know. I had to learn them and started to bring them into the center. So we went from nothing, and I built that planning team up for your proper traditional resource planning cycle.
How did, for those people that are listening, that are maybe that kind of, I love this kind of going out, teaching yourself, but there must have been moments where people are coming to you as the single point of success or failure, right? At that point, they're coming to you, they're asking you questions. How did you manage that? What were those feelings like? How did you manage that kind of responsibility?
It's interesting you mentioned feelings. At the beginning, when you are self-taught, and all of a sudden there's like, oh, there's someone to go and ask about the forecast. Somewhat like we never had a forecast before, and then it's like, why aren't we hitting forecast? And you're like, hang about, we didn't have a forecast last week. um, the feelings to begin with are terrifying.
Mm.
It's like, oh my god, like you've got stakeholders coming to you, but it's like you've got to front up to that. You've got to, fake it till you make it a little bit. You've got to kind of, part of being a planner, I think these days, is your communication skills. It's like, as I say, we're not just sat with Excel anymore. It's about going out there and having those conversations, overcoming the fears, the questions, the objections, until actually you really do get to the point where you do know what you're talking about, and you can influence, not only answer the stake, but be able to influence those stakeholders. But to begin with, yeah, terrifying.
I love that though. So as your knowledge increases and as your experience increases, not just answering but influencing. What a lovely phrase. I love that. Um, did you start then to the growth of the operation is reflected in the growth of your team, or
Yeah, so it got to the point where I think when I left, there were four heads really. It's probably three and a half FTE. We had an advisor coming and helping us half day. It kind of, it's progression planning really, just in case and anybody left. Probably had about 6 or 7 planners in the 8 years that I was there. I was very fortunate to have couple of great planners. One of them's still there, Jonathan Brand, doing great work, and a rock star analyst, to coin a Sarah Thompson phrase from a previous Get Out a Rap, doing great work. I was fortunate, and I'm fortunate now where I'm working, to have great people that report into me. But I don't like that hierarchical. It's like we're in it together as a team. I'm a big champion of the small planning teams. You've got to work together. Almost everybody's got to have a little bit of everybody's role, even if that's someone stepping into like my role and trying to influence the stakeholders. Yeah, I've been very fortunate within the team and the people that I've had working with me.
now your career kind of matches what I think everyone that knows our industry would say has been an increase in complexity, both from channels, technology, customer expectations, tightening of budget. You know, you look at all of these things. That that has definitely got, and I always think, you know, from my point of view, the more I understood about what planners and WFM teams do, the more impressed I was just in terms of what, my God, I couldn't even begin to do what you do. Have you seen that kind of, has the job got harder, and how have teams evolved to be able to not only cope but also to, like you say, influence and propel and lead to growth?
Yeah, I think I don't see it. I don't see it almost as getting harder. It's a bit like someone asks you, like, when you're a new parent, it's, oh, it must be hard, and it's like I've got
You,
almost teenager now, and it's
yeah.
like it's not it's not any harder or easier. I feel like just the problems have changed and the issues have changed and the things that you need to solve have changed. So back in 2008, it was a financial crash, and I was working for a council, and just austerity was there for like 6 years, and
Mm,
it was we've got to take things out of the contact center, we've got to reduce the contacts, you've got to self-serve. But that fell in line with the evolution of channel migration. So more things went online, and we introduced web chat, and all that was under a, well, these are efficiency savings, and what will it gain us? So it came from the delivery of that to actually stopping that and
mm,
changing that channel, but then doing the reporting of, well, how is that changing? How are we influencing the customers to take a different channel, to ultimately save money? And the challenges around that were different. The biggest evolution I see from planners is that whole, you've now got to put yourself out there, and you've got to talk to people, and your communication and your presentation skills. You've got to tell a story, um, to influence people where you want them to go. And almost a lot of the things that we talk about is complex, right? It's like
mm,
talking about percentage shifts and things. You've got to dumb it down a little bit for the audience to help them understand, get to the end point of where you want them to get to. And that's an evolution of the skills that a planner is needed for me. That's what I've seen, because when I started out, I couldn't tell a story, with data. Like, data's massive now, isn't it? And now the next space is AI with your data. It's like, yeah, the evolution just means that it's a different set of problems.
I'm still in touch with people who will quite openly say I was a nightmare. They were in the WFM team, and they will quite openly say I was a bit of a nightmare. I was leading ops at the time, and I was smiling then when you were saying about dumbing it down, because they used to talk about how, like internally, they'd talk about how we're going to explain this to Martin, because I would just sort of I would just sort of zone out a bit, and go, just I don't know what you talk. Just tell me what the end of this part is. Like, what do you want from me? What am I doing wrong? I was malleable, let's say, in terms of, look, you tell me where I'm going wrong, what I need to do different. I don't need all that bit that leads up to it. And but for other leaders that they were talking to, they did need that level of data. Like, I trusted these guys inherently and was just like, look, you guys are experts. Tell me what to do. That's fine, and we'll find if, and if I don't, if I think, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? For me, that was the way it should be. It was us working together, utilizing the planning team's skills and expertise to be able to deliver what we needed to deliver without me making their life a misery.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, you learn to get to know your internal stakeholders of who wants what and who understands what and who just wants to, what should we do? And it sounds like you're in, what should we do? Right, let's do it. And then you, as the planner, you kind of live or die by that decision. Sometimes your audience, and sometimes you get it wrong. I remember a counsellor coming in, and they were talking about, well, how does it work? And I kind of really dumbed it down. And he was like, I used to work in planning. I was like, all right then, okay then, like adherence,
Mm.
occupancy. It's like,
Yeah.
and we're like, oh, we're there, are we? We're going to go up a few levels. So you've got to read the room, you've got to read the stakeholder. The longer that you are at an organization, you tend to know what people need, what they require, um, for their decisions, and because they've got stakeholders, they've got people that they need to manage upwards as well. They'll take your information and manage it up.
Mm. Now, you'd been at the council 13, 14 years, something
Yeah,
like that.
13 years. Yeah.
And then you wanted to move, you wanted to try something different. What was it?
Well, coming back to the awards piece, I actually I had a conversation with Jackie Pringle, at the UK National Contact Centre Awards, and one of your opening points was about getting that validation. I think we decided that we wanted to put ourselves up for awards. So I did. I nominated myself, and I wrote the submission and I put it in. Not really like put yourself out there, like we said earlier.
Yeah.
Not really expecting anything, and it came back that I'd been shortlisted. I was like, okay, amazing. And I went and had my interview, and I believe it was the last face-to-face interviews that they'd done in the Co-op building in Manchester with Steve Woosie. I caught up with him. And he says the last time we did it, and I ended up getting silver. Went to the awards, got silver. Name went up on screen. It was streamed on YouTube, and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." And I came back, and almost that external validation kind of, I'd say, opened the door, opened my eyes to what potentially was also out there. I'd done 13 years at the same organization, and then the penny dropped in that. Do you know what? You need a new challenge. So I kind of started listening. I started listening to headhunters, to be honest, and I ended up at Bennington Health. And it's 4 years ago this month now, and I was at Bennington 2 weeks before COVID hit. So that was just right in at the deep end, because we're talking about, like, it's very important to me to be able to meet people, the stakeholder bit, get to know them. It's like bang, all of a sudden it's just remote.
And this was what, 2 weeks after you 2 weeks
joined? After, yeah. I know. I was like trying to meet my team, trying to learn the organization, what was the product, what were our challenges, trying to get the seat at the table for your marketing and your HR and your IT. It's like I had to do all of that remotely. So yeah, that was it. That was it. I look back now and think, again, it was exciting because it was all new. But you look back and you reflect and you think, wow, what wild ride that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. That went on and on and on for like 2 years.
We're still riding it.
I think so. Yeah.
And you, you're very passionate and vocal about how great planning is. And if you were, for people that I think our biggest pool of resource, like you say, are on the phones, or they're the customer facing team members, what would you say to those people around why planning? Why would you look to planning as a career option?
Yeah, it's but both of the organizations that I've spent most of my career at, it is interesting that people do start on the phones. It is the entry level into the organization, but it's a great opportunity, not just for the planning. They're so close to the product that they can go off and do multiple things. So when I was at the council, we take calls about highways, roads. We take pothole calls effectively. But so many people used to go and join highways because they were interested within it. We had people leave to go into HR. It's like a good entry level. If you're interested in the call center world, you go team leader and planner. It's like there isn't really that much, and then you can kind of build up and go contact center manager. And some people don't want to be a team leader. They don't want responsibility. It's hard work. It's a tough job being a team leader and people management. So if you're more interested in the stats and the mechanics of what actually makes the call center work, and you could see the advisors who are interested in the service level, watching the wall, take another call, take AHT. It's like there's a natural interest in the mechanics of how all of that works, that service level. Absolutely. If you're of that analytical mind and you're interested in the call center and how it works when you delve under the rock, absolutely planning, because it's exciting. And what other sort of job is there where you could almost minute by minute see how well you're doing in your job? Because there's a board pretty much. You can see what your performance is.
Yeah.
A lot of jobs, you're like, am I doing all right? Am I right? You can see it. Like, it's flashing. But there's a lot of pressure on some days where you're not quite delivering and you're trying to work out why, or you're trying to articulate the reasons potentially why it's a good thing,
Mm.
that you're not necessarily performing on that day. It's against forecast. It's against the capacity plan. It's where we are. And if you have a natural interest in that, planning is the place to be. And I love planners. Like the forum, shout out to the forum. You talk to the
Yeah,
planner,
they're great.
everybody is willing to help another planner. I've not met a
Mm.
planner who won't help a planner. The community, and
Mm.
we've over the last year set up kind of my own little community for help with workforce management system that we use. Everybody is there to help each other. It's a great career. It is a great place to be, for those people who want to understand the mechanics of the call center.
Here's a question for you that I was like, oh, I'm going to ask Steve this. Um, how can the other functions in the contact center help planners? Not necessarily help, but what are some of the things that they can do to make everybody work more effectively?
I think the starting point really is the communication there. You need to understand what the planning role is. Like my wife's like, "What do you do?" She's like, she tells people I'm in computer programming and things like that. It's like understanding what the role is and the part that you play. And so, an advisor point of view, you've got the whole power of one concept is like you make a massive difference. This is how the forecast works. This is where you get your schedule. The power of that service level, what that will mean for the business, missing service level, can have huge ramifications financially in some organizations. You've got to be able to try and understand what planners do, and that helps everybody. Then you've got the team leaders, they need to understand. A lot of team leaders will change things on their schedules. There needs to be an understanding of the adherence, your occupancy, all of those kind of traditional planning metrics. It's the understanding piece, and a lot of that doesn't get done. You should spend time with your planning team. And also, by the way, going back the other way, if you've not come from the phones or been an advisor, go and sit with the advisors and see what they're
Mm.
having to deal with, and the challenges. And I'm kind of very empathetic towards the team leaders in particular, because I all kind of put myself in the shoes of a team leader having to have a conversation. So it's understanding each other's roles. I'm a big champion of the small contact center. And if you're in a small contact center, it's really easy to do that. You can
Mm.
have conversations. COVID and hybrid working has changed a little bit. Trying to there is a bit of a barrier now, but take the time to have the conversations two-way to understand what everybody's working towards. We've all got our own objectives. What are ultimately are we working towards?
And you're dead right. And let's be honest, those barriers that exist now due to hybrid and remote are overcome through effort. It's just you have to make maybe more of an effort to go and understand what someone does and develop a relationship that allows you to communicate effectively. I love that. Now, when you think about where planning is heading and what the future looks like, what's that for you?
It's a good question. I think probably the wider answer is AI, isn't it? Artificial intelligence and bringing that in, because we're a small contact center. The future for us is actually it. It's not as forward thinking as that. It's utilizing the technology that we've got. Now, a couple of years ago, we got a new telephony provider. We got a new WFM system, and we are still almost in like your phase two and phase three of utilizing the technology that we've got there. So things like your speech analytics, we're introducing web chat. We're still pretty much, we're 95% telephony based. So we're still almost introducing the channels. We're still almost doing the channel migration, self-serve. We've got an app. So we as an organization are still in that space, almost a few years behind where you guess the industry is moving towards with the AI. But we're not the only
Oh,
organization in
I was
space.
just going to say, I
There's
reckon,
lots and lots and lots of
yeah.
organizations who are still who are still on that journey, and it's an important journey to go on. So I don't feel like we're behind in any way,
No.
but we're still within that area, because it all comes down to your business needs and your business requirements and the demographics of our business. You've got to look at what the customer wants. There's no point introducing kind of the channel migration if the customers don't want to migrate, right? So we're still in that kind of dipping our toe in an educational piece around the channels that we've got. So we're opening up new channels and opening up different layers of the technology that we've got available to us. That's the imminent future for us.
I love it. And now for you personally, are there more award? Is two enough? Are you going for more?
I am going for more. So
Great.
when I messaged my wife last year and said I want to be winning that, I felt like I had to back that up. So the forum, they closed their submissions just before Christmas, and they're currently in the judging space for the forum awards, which is at the end of April. And we've been shortlisted for small planning team of the year.
Congrats.
So there's three of us. Guys in my team deserve it. I want to do it justice to win for them. Mike Corley and James Learmonth are just incredible. They are the workhorses. They are the team, and I'm just the front. I'd love to win it for them. I'm also up for Resource Planner of the Year, the Resource Planning Manager of the Year. So fingers crossed, Martin.
Yes.
And then the UK National Contact Centre Awards, which is closing mid-February. I'm going to put a submission into that as well, because that's where my awards journey started. And coming back to my like kind of one of the start, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
If you
I'm all for it. We don't do it. We don't do enough of it. And um I've seen, the impact, and it's given us this opportunity to get to know, and the opportunity for people listening and watching to get to know you better, to get to know and hear and see your passion for planning and our industry as a whole. If you had to end with another tip, because one of one of them is put yourself out there, but if you had to end for another tip for people out there to just make the most of their career, what would it be?
you know what, I'm gonna focus in on the planning side. So we had problems with trying to solve some issues, and it was what I didn't realize, it was an industry wide thing with our workforce management provider, and there wasn't a community to help us. And talk about the power of the community, and again, that team leader community that you've got. If there isn't a community, set one up.
Yeah,
Necessity is the mother of invention, isn't it?
yeah.
Famous proverb. And there wasn't one. So we set it up. And now we've got multiple customers with our own little community, and the forum have taken our community on as well. And it's kind of, we are running alongside each other. Don't sit in isolation.
No.
So many great people out there, whatever role you're in, get out there on LinkedIn or the call center helper, get to know names, go to the forum events, go to the expo events, meet people, network, set up your own community, solve your problems.
And I would add to that to just get in touch with Stephen. Just get in touch, and you can help put people in the right place. And absolutely love it. I can't. This has been a whistle. It's gone so quick, but I've loved every moment. I wish you and your team all the best for your forthcoming awards. Congrats on the ones you have won, and thanks so much for coming on Get Out of Rap.
Thanks for having me, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure. And you look great, by the way. Look at you. Like, there's less of you since I last saw you, Martin. Looking fabulous.
Less of the wine.
Oh, is that what it is?